Hi folks, it's Dr. Rohit. I hope you're well and I hope you can hear me. Actually, I just need to check my sound to see what this is set on, and you are currently listening to me on... Okay, I'm hoping you can hear me now. I'm on a different mic. So, I just finished a cracking weekend. If any of you were on that weekend, well done for attending, and you've got to apply what I was teaching you. Those of you that are coming on the journey with us, congratulations, and hopefully you're plugged into some of these messages. It's Monday afternoon, and there's been a lot of announcements these last 3, 4, 5 days. Over the last week, government are still sitting on more announcements. You probably heard me talk about this earlier in the year. COVID definitely isn't something that everybody thought was going to go away quickly, and I think the general feeling was this is going to be with us for a while. I think we're going to see this with us for not just months but years ahead in different forms, in terms of two things really: the aftermath of how it's impacted us financially, economically, and in terms of businesses, but also three things: mentally, that's another conversation for another day, but also from a health perspective, this is just COVID-19. Nobody started talking about other strains that potentially could be out there, or however they found their way to us. I'm not going to go into that. So there's four things I think are really important looking towards the end of this year. It's winter. The summer, we had the favour of what was a beautiful summer, and I think we were blessed to some extent that we had the ability to be in lockdown but with relatively great weather, and people were able to go and experience things outwardly. There are studies and there's correlations between the northern hemisphere, shorter days, darker mornings, darker evenings, areas of the world like northern Sweden, for example, parts of Norway, where people's happiness levels and their general demeanour has been seen to be more dowdy. And this is not a criticism, it's just an observation, and science has shown that it can affect people's feeling. Just in the winter, people tend to be a little bit more flattered by nature. Vitamin D levels affect us massively. Lack of sun affects our vitamin D, and in fact, generally speaking, even in the United Kingdom, we still don't get enough sun to allow our bodies to sustainably have that level of vitamin D inside it, which is why we supplement. But that's a conversation again for another day, and in fact we're bringing on some specialists back into our podcast with Seekardo show to talk about that, because I think it's really important. So what am I talking about right now on this live? What I'm talking about is getting yourself ready, mental resilience. I think our children, particularly at this moment in time, over the next year or two, if you're a parent, you've really got to start preparing your kids, because they've been through this separation for a while, they've reconnected again. Children's resilience, I honestly feel, emotionally, may be left with some level of a scar in coming months and years ahead. So we need to try and work a way to help our children deal with that, because of this fear that's been driven to us by government announcements, the media, etc., etc. And whether you believe that fear is tangible or it has some tangibility is irrelevant, really. It's the fact that the message has been so fear-driven that it leaves what I call a psychic scar, an emotional scar, a significant emotional event emotionally on our souls. And you can agree or disagree with me, but I've done enough interventional work with people over the years to know what these things do, and they just get tucked away. Some people tuck it away in ego, other people tuck it away in fear, victimism, powerlessness, however you want to describe it. But there are things that we can do now to get ourselves ready for what's going to be another 3, 4, 5, 6 months of pretty difficult period in lots of ways, not just, oh my gosh, we're being locked down again, or circuit breakers, whatever they freaking call them, but also just the very fact that these shorter days, locked inside, typically this time of year people's immune systems are lower, so we are going to see flus and colds and various things like that passing around. And of course that then is magnified by the fact that everything seems to be labelled with COVID until tested. So I've put four things, and I'm actually going to do it over here. This isn't the most motivational message, by the way, but it's meant to be a serious message. And I think also bear in mind I'm absolutely shattered. I've been 3 days non-stop on my feet. So I want to talk about four things. First of all, if I headline them, first of all, health is the one. Above everything else, look after your health. Think carefully about what you're putting in your body, and I've talked about this before, but your immune system is essentially like a brick wall to the outside. It's protecting you from being attacked. if you eat crap food and you do not enhance your body's ability to look after itself, then what happens is your immune system is lowered, the brick wall is lowered, and the enemy can get over that wall. I'm simplifying, but in reality that's how it is. So that's something to be extremely mindful of, and I think that's something I would suggest at this stage you start to look into. Now you can go and watch some of our previous podcasts where we've talked about this, particularly the one related to COVID with Dr. Rob Verkerk and Mel Aldridge, where they talked about some actions you can do. There's another series I've done with Harminder on health. You can go and look at that on the Seekardo show. These are free podcasts. Those of you that are supporters of the Seekardo show, then we actually have videos that go through this. There's actually a series on health as well. But you're going to have to work on this, because this is the time when you've really got to start considering what you need to put in your body to get your immune system up. This is about preparation, okay? The next one, as I've got there on the screen, is emotional resilience. Decide how you want to filter the information. You know, these visuals of people's masks, this fear-driven information that we've been getting, and the accuracy and the misinformation about masks and how they work and do they work and all this stuff. It's very confusing. The statistics that we're getting that are arguably skewed. And again, I'm not going to get into all of this, but I'm just saying that I think we get fed so much information and it's coming from so many different angles that it gets very confusing and people get pissed off and frustrated, etc. But your emotional resilience has to be such that you are waking up with a very definitive sense of purpose. And I know we've had a difficult period with the house being renovated, stuff affecting the business, etc., and lots of other things happening at the same time. My mother's health just recently wasn't so good. So when these things happen, it's very easy to be like you're in a fight and you're just being hit with a left, a right hook, a left, a right hook. But it's how you respond to those circumstances. What defines who you are as a person is not necessarily what happens to you, but how you respond to that which happens to you. Hopefully that makes sense. So that means, what do I need to do to have emotional resilience? What does even emotional resilience mean to you? You know, it doesn't mean being angry necessarily, but if you need to get angry towards something, then allow that to express out. Everybody's situation is different, so emotional resilience is very, very important. Another one is financial planning. Start looking at your finances, looking ahead over the next 6 months. Where could there be issues? If you run a business, how could it be affected? If you're in a job, be honest with yourself. Is furlough going to affect you? Is it going to come to an end? Are you going to be made redundant? Rather than stick your head in the sand, start to think about that. Please go and watch our podcast on this, because we have talked about the understanding of money and your relationship with money, but it's important to plan ahead. Have you got delayed payments that you put back, tax, VAT, etc.? I know we have, certainly in a couple of our businesses as well. So these are things to consider. Rather than ignore it, map it out. I think that's an important thing. Start creating a map for your health, a map for your emotional resilience. What books can you read? Who you can go to get motivated? Do you need a coach? Who can you put around you in your peer group to make sure you're strengthened and motivated and kept serious, so that you don't allow the external set of circumstances to impact how you are on a personal level? How can you protect your family, but at the same time not protect them so much that they haven't got strength? Because one of the challenges as adults, what we can tend to do is we mollycoddle our children, or we try and protect them so much they don't develop their own sense of strength as well. So think about what you do actually allow them to understand about the world at the moment. And then the last one is communication. Who do you need to communicate what to? Now, you probably know this is a big sort of message of mine at the moment, and by all means go and take our test, and I'm going to message it again. You can hear me talk about this a lot over the coming months. www.seekardo.com/test, and that will help you in understanding your communication skills. But more importantly, who do you need to communicate what to? Do you need to talk to a boss, a business partner? If you've got concerns about money that you can't pay out, better to have that conversation now. If you've got concerns about a relationship situation, or there's things you've been putting off, don't let them build up, because remember, other people that you're talking to will have their own concerns about their own lives. So it's better to be transparent right now and have the conversations that maybe you've been putting off. And if you're watching this and thinking, fuck, I know exactly what he's talking about, this is the time to do it. You know, this is really the time to clear the emotional load off you. And part of the blockage of communication is by not communicating what you feel, what you want to say to people. That builds up as a pressure, and that will let itself out into another area of your life. Maybe one of the ones we've talked about above, including the top one, health. So 4 things there I'd strongly recommend that you consider going into this period leading up to Christmas and into the new year as well, and ask yourself the question, which one of these is the most important to work on first? Probably health, but you may be good at that already, but your finances aren't good. And then start to work through it. Now, looking at those, I would say all 4 of those are tackled in some way, shape or form through our free podcast. So it might be worth, if you haven't had any connection with this, go and do that. Otherwise, be reading, be watching. I've got material out there you can go and have a look at as well. Self-study, grow, expand, surround yourself with the right people, and stay positive through this period, because we're going to get a lot of negative news over the coming months, and it's your choice how you want to react to it. All right, I think my other half's calling me, so I better go. Dr. Rose signing out. See you on the next podcast. Sorry, well, actually, we'll see you on the next podcast. See you on the next live.